Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. I was playing Gaelic football, which is similar to soccer, but allows all players, not just the goalie, to handle and catch the ball. It's a fast-paced game, some say more exciting than soccer, and I was probably getting too old for it. It is also a supposedly limited contact sport, with shoulder-to-shoulder bumping permitted, but not when picking up the ball from the ground. However, it appears that a large athletic young man playing for the opposing team in his second game had forgotten or was not informed of this. I have no recollection of the impact, but I was hit by his hip in the left side of my head near my left eye as he was running full speed to kick the ball off the ground, presumably motivated to do so before I could pick up the ball, and I was stooped over about to collect the ball. The impact reportedly lifted me off the ground, and I spun in the air before landing fully limp on the ground and striking my head again, clearly knocked unconscious by the initial impact. My team members, including my nephew, claim I was unconscious for 30 seconds to a minute. They were concerned. I had some brief fitting, common in concussion with loss of consciousness and bleeding from the side of my head. I looked very still for a brief time, and some were starting to worry if I was still alive. I then began to move and groan, and I became concerned about my eye, which I thought had been knocked out of place. I was carried to the sidelines, and it took about 45 minutes for me to regain consciousness. My own internal experience is what interests me, and I believe it is relevant, so I'm submitting it to IANDS. I should mention that I am a psychiatrist by profession, and I'm used to self-reflection, which may or may not have helped me recall what others who've been knocked unconscious do not. The alternative is that I began to have an NDE and was possibly closer to death than I'd like to believe. I probably shouldn't have been helping my son and nephew and their team make up numbers in a fast young man's sport at the age of 43. I'm also prone to supraventricular ectopic heartbeats and brief arrhythmias, which is noteworthy given that my teammates said I appeared too still to be knocked out. Later, a psychiatry colleague suggested I examine my motivation for playing as a middle-aged denying defenseman. After that, I hung up the boots. My experience was that I was thrown into a black void. I was both at ease and taken aback. There was no sense of vision, including no color or light, not even a hint of visual stimuli as one may see even when eyelids shut in a dark room. Complete silence, except for the hint of a memory of a click having come from the left side just some moments previously. No sense of temperature or pain or touch, smell or taste whatsoever. There was a sense of enclosed space, like this black void was within a container that was not very large. There may have been a sense of being suspended, of floating but not moving, or complete stillness. I'm not sure which at this point I'm writing. There were complete logical reasoning and language abilities. I found myself wondering, what am I doing? What exactly happened? What was I up to? I think I was playing football. That's it. I was playing football. So now, I must be knocked out. A feeling of relief, but only slight because I wasn't really feeling any worry. The experience had been quite pleasant and interesting up until that point. It's been going on a bit long. Slight anxiety. I should come too soon. Still, it's going on a bit long. Then something strange began to happen. I felt myself moving, followed by a sense of rapid acceleration backward and upward as if I were traveling a great distance, and all around me a sense of small spots of light that could be stars, but were blurred by the speed with which I was flying past them. I was filled with excitement and the anticipation of going somewhere wonderful. I then considered, but, unlike those near-death experiences, this is leaving my life. I can't. I'm not ready. I have to go back. Those thoughts were condensed into a single moment, but they appeared to be doing something. For a brief moment, I felt a sudden change of direction and rapid movement in the direction I'd come from. My memory of the next few minutes is of confusion. I'm not sure which came first. Seeing and smelling the grass into which my face was lying, seeing with my right eye while realizing my left wouldn't open, and then feeling a ping-pong ball-sized lump sticking up under my eyelid. I thought my eye had come out of its socket at first, but then I heard voices from teammates telling me it was just the eyelid swelling with blood from the hit near the brow. Then, I had hallucinatory or illusionary memories of some of the players moving and staccato, the ball moving along the ground away from me, and the sky turning pink. Or it could have happened just before coming to find my face in the grass. Either way, it came after the period of lucid thought in the dark void and the accelerating movement through space. The hallucinatory images of the game, I later realized, would fit with my vision in the second or so before I was hit, and were thus possibly memories resurfacing. My brief time in the dark void and rapid movement past lights seemed to last about 30 seconds to a minute, during which I was reportedly completely unconscious. But as my experience demonstrated, I was not completely unconscious. I was thinking clearly, even though I wasn't sure who I was or where I was, though I might have figured out soon after being disoriented by the sudden shock of being suspended in blackness, as my reasoning seemed very clear and sound at the time. My reasoning became even more muddled as I sat on the stretcher on the sidelines, waiting for an ambulance for the next 40 minutes or so. I sat through the rest of the game, unable to recall the names of my teammates or the day or the date. I was aware that I was confused and had memory issues, and I was concerned about the long-term effects on my career. My nephew eventually came over after the game and asked how I was doing. My mind kept returning to the image of a chocolate cake. I asked him why I was thinking about it. He mentioned a family party for my niece that morning, complete with a chocolate cake. That helped orient me, and I worked hard to connect my memories from my niece's party to about 10 minutes before the accident, which is usual for post-concussion recall and retrograde amnesia. And attempting to comprehend this experience and presumably submitting it to IANDS, I see two distinct explanations. The first is that my experience reflected the extent of trauma to my brain, with lower areas of my brain disconnected from sensory input, but frontal lobe areas possibly still functioning and reasoning well. The rapid acceleration and sense of leaving my body could have simply been my vestibular or balance and visual systems reactivating and echoing the seeing stars of concussion and movement caused by the impact. That's all I think it was. However, I'm still astounded by the level of lucidity and consciousness I maintained when I should have been completely unconscious. I've been interested in the NDE since reading Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life, as a medical student in the late 1970s, and I've read enough about it and spoken to enough patients who've had it to believe it's a sign that the mind or soul survives physical death. That knowledge was with me when I made the decision not to continue going in the direction I thought and felt the accelerating movement was taking me. Perhaps my sense of leaving and direction to return are correct, and it is my decision that allows me to write this today.